Hi, welcome to the demo on Equitrack print submission, high availability print submission using network load balancer. In this video, I would like to show how I have configured my demo environment to do print submission via a network load balancer. I'm using the loadbalancer.org server, and I will try to use two print servers to do print submission through load balancing. Just a quick overview of my setup. On my setup, I will have 5 VMs running. So VM number 1 is the Active Directory DNS, and it is also running the Equitrack cache server. This configuration is not recommended and not advisable in a production environment. The cache should be run independently, not on Active Directory and the DNS server. But this is for the sake of demonstration. I'm running in one box. So this is server number 1. Then I have two DRE1 and DRE2. These are the print servers running Equitrack DRE component. And then I have the network load balancer, which I said I'm using the loadbalancer.org network load balancer, and the workstation, which is the Windows 10 VM that I'm using. So I have these 5 VMs which I will be running to demonstrate this. So at one point I will switch off DRE1 and have DRE2, and I will show that the print will still be submitted, and in the other case I will have switched off DRE2 and print through DRE1. A couple of points regarding the configuration that are important that makes this whole thing working, because the way that Equitrack supports Nuance supports print submission, high availability print submissions with load balancer is by using the direct routing method or the DR method. And this is the most important thing to take note, is that Equitrack and Nuance only support high available print submission using the DR, configuring a load balancing using the DR method. And when this configuration is required, when the DR method of configuration is required, then on the DRE server we need to configure Microsoft loopback addresses. You have to configure the adapters on the server within the Microsoft loopback adapters, which will be the IP address of the VIP. So on the load balancer we configure a virtual IP, which is what the client will see and client will interact with, and in return, on all the DREs or all the print servers that are going to be servicing under this load balancer, they will have a configured a Microsoft loopback adapter, which will be the same as the VIP. They will obviously have their own real IPs, which in this case is 192.168.0.11 and 0.12. The virtual IP or the VIP is 192.168.0.55. This IP is configured on the load balancer, and this is a virtual IP as the name suggests. The network load balancer also has two other IP address, 192.168.0.26 on Ethernet 0, which is the management IP. This is where I will log in to manage the VIP and to configure the load balancer. And on Ethernet 1, I have a segment which is pointing towards the client subnet where all the clients are, which is 192.168.61.x. So the load balancer has a IP of 192.168.61.26, which is in the segment where it will be interacting with the clients to accept the print jobs. So these are a couple of important points, and one other point to take note also is that on the DNS server I have configured manually a network record for host A with a name to what the load balancer's network name is, which is in my case print LB, print load balancer, and the FTQN of print LB Jupyter.planet, which is my domain, Jupyter.planet, and the IP of 192.168.0.55. So this is a manually created DNS record on my DNS server so that these two can resolve and the clients can resolve on this IP. So let me quickly show you. Right now I have these, as I said, these 5 VMs turned on. These are my 5 VMs. Sorry, the client is not yet on. I will turn on the client. It is, especially when I'm doing my screen recording, it is a little bit hard to turn all the 5 VMs on. So I have 4 VMs on right now, DRE1, DRE2, Equitrack CAS and the Active Directory, and this is the load balancer VM. So load balancer, as I said, is configured through its management IP, which is 192.168.0.26. This is the configuration. To do this uh, high available print submission through Equitrack with the SMB protocol is a relatively simpler setup with the loadbalancer.org network device. A quick overview: this is my system. I can see that right now I have two VIPs or two services, two virtual services running. One is on IPP for IPP printing, and one is for SMB printing. For the sake of this demonstration, I will be covering only the SMB printing, which is more common, but IPP is also possible. So under my virtual service called Print LB, I have two real servers, DRE1 and DRE2. Uh, the IP of the virtual IP is 0.55. There is a number of ports that I'm covering. I'm giving equal weightage to both these servers and the rest of it. And as we've said as I've said earlier, the most important thing is that we support the service to be configured in the direct routing mode. So that print high available print with the nuance supporting is with the DR mode, direct routing mode. So that's the overview of this service. In terms of configuration, there's very minimal configuration, hostname and DNS. So as I said, hostname LB and Jupyter.planet my domain, the DNS server, which is my Active Directory server. For the network interface configuration, I have, as I showed in my diagram, I have one Ethernet 0, which is configured for the management IP, Ethernet 1, which is configured for the client side IP in the client side VLAN. So it's servicing all the clients. Rest of the configuration are standard configuration. For creating the virtual service, you go and create the virtual service under the layer 4. I have created print LB, so there's not much to configure here. The IP address of the new service, the ports that it will service on, protocol, method, as I've repeatedly said, it is direct routing. We do not support NAT and tunneling. We only support direct routing for Equitrack and Nuance print submission. Balance, we are balancing both of them. It's a persistent connection, and we are checking on a port 2938, checking for a heartbeat to see whether the service is up or not. And the real servers under this service is the two real servers, which are real servers. Real servers are my two DRE real servers, sorry, layer 4 real servers. So DRE1 on 192.168.0.11 and 0.12. So that's the configuration of the load balancer, which will provide the high available print submission. Right now, as you can see, both my DRE, DRE1 and DRE2 are turned on. To start the demonstration, what I would do is I will switch off my DRE2. I could do any one of them. I'm just choosing 2 so that I can start with 1. So let me just quickly log in and turn this off for two reasons. One is I want to show that what happens when one is off, and the second is that I need at least 4 VMs on. I cannot do with 5 VMs right now. My Mac is already heating up. So I've turned off DRE2 on the in my environment. I'm booting up my Windows 10 client, which I will use for print submission, and I will show the jobs appearing on one of the servers, and then I would turn off the server to show the job on the other server. So this is DRE1. I'm just logging in and launching the print queue viewer so that we will be able to see the job. So this is DRE1 print queue viewer. My workstation is booted up. I will log into my workstation as Sunil Sharma. So my client, my DRE1, DRE2 is switched off right now. My cache and my load balancers are still on. So going into my workstation, this is not running anything special, just Windows 10, and now I want to connect to my print queue, which is published through the load balancer. And as I showed you on my DNS, I have a record for print LB, which is my network load balancer, and I should be able to browse to that. And on that server, or the virtual IP, virtual service, is this printer which is shared from DRE1 or DRE2. Right now it's only DRE1, but that is transparent or invisible to the end user customer. The end user customer connects to this server as usual, as if it was on one print server. So I'm now installing this printer on my network, on my Windows 10 workstation. It's pulling the driver, installing the driver, and installing the printer. So the printer is now installed. So if I now, my DRE1 is available, DRE2 is switched off, so I'm just going to print one page. So DRE1 available, I choose the printer which I've just installed, follow U queue on print LB. I have other queue which I said, which I'm not covering in this demonstration, on IPP, but IPP is also possible, but right now we are concentrating on the printing through SMB. So I print through the printer that I just created, and if I come on my DRE1, I will be able to see the job. So the job has come through, DRE1 available. This is the name of the job, this is the name of the user, and DRE2 was switched off, DRE1 is turned on, and the printer was attached while DRE1 was on, and I was still able to print. So that's so good so far. I just get rid of this job just to make it clean and easy. And now I will switch off my DRE1, assuming that there is a service outage on DRE1 and DRE1 has been switched off. And I will switch on my DRE2. So just simulating that one server goes down, the other server is available. And as you saw previously, when I attached the printer, only one server was available. Still, this is all going to be invisible or transparent to the end user or the workstation. They will not be seeing any one of this, even if the service goes down or services, one of the service, as long as one of the servers is up, they will be able to successfully print the job. So now I have DRE2 available. I'll just make sure that the server is up. So this is DRE2. I will log in onto this and bring up the print queue viewer so that I can see the job. Just give it a minute. So there's my print queue view so that I will be able to see the job when I'm printing from the workstation. I am on DRE2, DRE1 is switched off. So I go to my workstation now. I don't have to do any configuration, any change on my workstation. I just open any job and I'm just choosing the job DRE2 available. And if I print this now on the queue, which is the SMB queue, follow U queue on print LB, without any users interaction, the load balancer will be able to make sure that it is highly available and it will connect to whichever print server is available. It will be able to connect it that. And so now my job is here, DRE2 available. That's the job that I just printed, the user as we know, and just submitted as we know already. So the job will come through irrespective of whichever server is available. So our print network load balancer or highly availability is working, as we can clearly say here under my print LB service. My DRE1 is down, DRE2 is up, and I'm able to get the job. And as you saw in my previous execution, the DRE2 was switched off, DRE1 was on, and I was able to connect to a printer. So irrespective of which DRE was on, I was able to connect to a printer, and then later on I was able to print to either of those two printers. So that's in a nutshell printing Equitrack and Nuance printing with the load balancer. It makes it highly available, it makes it fail safe, and we can have multiple print servers. The only consideration, as I'm saying again, final, is that it has to be in the DR mode, direct routing mode. And for the direct routing mode, it is important that all the Windows print server that are configured are just bringing up the macro diagram to cover that off again. So all the print servers that are configured, they also have a Microsoft loopback adapter configured, which is configured as the VIP of the service that is providing. Um, there is another configuration which is detailed in the load balancer manual, is that you have to configure the strong weak host behavior. There are some ARP commands or netsh command that you have to run on this adapter, which will configure this. This is covered in the network load balancers manual. We have to make sure that we configure the host record, and there are some further configurations on DRE1 and DRE2 about which is the main IP that the DCE should look out for, the jobs that have to be checked by the DCE service. So there's a couple of configuration, but these are the important steps, and with this we are able to configure highly available print submission with Equitrack and network load balancer. Thanks for watching.